All right. Everything appears to be functional. I'm live. Let me put this bucket away. Let me get my notes out so I can talk Avengers Endgame. Over here. All right. So it is Friday, May 3rd. Avengers has been out for a week. And so I wanted to talk about what I thought while also giving spoilers. So, let's get started. People show up, awesome. If not, then I'll just upload this and people can watch it in their free time, however much they want. So I thought Avengers was really, really good. Endgame was good. I would put it as my third favorite Avengers film. My channel. So let's delete this. All right. So Avengers was really good. I saw it twice. I saw it Thursday night at the premiere, and I saw it again Saturday. So I had, 2 times to see it and experience it. I have some notes over here that I want to kind of go over. But if anybody shows up, I will field some questions and talk about specific things. But really, when I come to a movie, I look for really 4 things. I look for good acting and characters. I look for good, interesting plot. I look for good, I'll call it mechanics, the editing, the camera angles and camera work, lighting, special effects. And I look for just good truth, good spiritual truth. I'm a strong Christian believer. And so having that in movies and TV shows is really, really good and interesting for me. I'm going to absentmindedly just look at both of my screens and not the camera, and it's going to be awkward. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rank Endgame as about a pretty solid 7.5, 8. The acting and characters were phenomenal by and large. I really enjoy good character moments, and this movie was full of them. As far as plot, I would give it about a 6 out of 10. It was very predictable, still very interesting in some capacities, but overall, very predictable. Mechanics, the cameras, the lighting, special effects, all that was really good. I would give that a solid 8. And then as far as those spiritual truths that I talked about, I would also give those an 8. But some specifics, as far as acting goes, I loved that first about third of the movie, where there was no action aside from the little sparring and killing of Thanos in the garden. But I love the first third because it was really heavy on those character moments that I so much enjoy. All the characters were dealing with the fallout of their decisions and their failures to save. Get out of here, King Doge 1408. Get out of here. Just kidding. But I love that first third of the movie because it was full of those character moments, and they continued coming back up throughout. I'm just blanking on my thoughts here. Even if the action was very subpar or non-existent until later in the film, some others complained that the movie was really slow to start, which I can kind of see, but also I like it that way. I don't want to just jump straight into all the action. I should have organized this a little better. I had an hour to prepare this, and I didn't do it properly. As far as characters go, going back to those character moments, Cap, Tony, Thor, all very good characters in this movie. They all had kind of good steps in their character arcs. Obviously, Tony and Cap ended theirs because they're not coming back. And so that was really cool to see how they've grown. It's really funny seeing Captain America cussing because he just has been so fed up with all the stuff that's been going on over the years. Seeing Tony just kind of fall apart and then kind of pull himself together through his family, and then risk it all, give it all for the sake of them. Thanos was really interesting to see because he seemed to be such a different character in this film, but that makes sense considering this Thanos was from 2014 versus the 2018 Thanos that we saw. And so this is like Thanos realizing that he wins, but he doesn't at the same time. Like he wipes out half the universe, but he dies immediately afterward. And then now this group is trying to undo that. And so he just decides to supercharge his plan and instead of just wiping out half the universe, just wipe out everything and then rebuild from the ground up. Don't know how he would have done that, considering using the gauntlet just the 1 or 2 times, like destroyed him. But yeah, it would have figured it out, I guess. But just there were some characters, 3 of them, actually the other 3 of the main 6, the original 6, were lame. Hated them. Black Widow has done like next to nothing in all of her films. She was just kind of eye candy because she's Scarlett Johansson. Even Barton, Hawkeye, got more history, more backstory, more development in the MCU than she did. Her backstory was mentioned briefly, and I know there's a prequel coming out about her sometime in the near future. But still, like they did nothing with this character aside from have her run around and kick people and wear tight-fitting or very revealing clothes. I was like, cool, that's not what I'm here to see. I want to see good characters, good action, good plot. And Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, as Natasha Romanoff, was not doing that for me. So I'm glad she finally, when they got to Vormir, her and Hawkeye, I knew she was the one who had to die because she had nothing going on in the story. This had to be her moment to do something. Whereas Clint still had to kind of redeem himself and save his family. So there was no doubt in my mind that Black Widow would be the one to die. Although I did love that little action sequence of them trying to fight each other over who's going to kill themselves. As much as like suicide is a serious issue and like never joke about that. It was still a really fun scene because they're both so serious about saving the other and saving their friends in the universe. But there's no doubt in my mind that Black Widow was going to be the one to do it. It would have just been a waste to get rid of Barton before his character arc kind of finished and he got back his family. Because that was his whole point in Civil War, was that he had a family and he didn't want to leave that. He'd settled down, even into Age of Ultron a little bit too, which is why he wasn't involved in the Infinity War phase in the first part of the Avengers 3. Banner was also kind of lame. They just kind of yada-yada'd how he managed to become both him and Hulk, and then he never really used his Hulk side. He jokingly smashed some stuff when they went back to 2012. He held up the building, which I'm just another issue I need to get to later. He held up part of the building to save War Machine and Rocket, but other than that, like he was never actually like Hulk. He never used that side of himself, which was kind of lame. He just yada yada, and somehow he's. I mean, yes, he's not technically a whatever the physicist, the time physicist, whatever that he would need to be to help. Gosh, what is that? It's not nuclear physics. It's something theoretical physics maybe. But he's whatever that is. That's not his degree of study, even though he has like 6 PhDs. And then just of course Tony has to be the one to solve the problem, which is kind of within his character, but also kind of frustrating that again he's the one getting all the action, whereas these other characters could have these good moments. Admittedly, he does kind of partially resolve the time travel thing. He gets, as they describe it, he gets time to flow through Scott instead of the other way around, which is interesting and a good progression, but still, like, he could have done more. One of my least favorite things about the MCU at this point, least favorite characters, is Captain Marvel. She's just the Superman of Marvel, and it's just so dumb. She does nothing. She does nothing because she can do everything. Like, she's indestructible. She has all this vaguely immense power. And it just makes for a really lame character and some really cheap moments when she's just unstoppable. Like in her film, the beginning of her film, like she gets locked up and then she breaks free and her hands are stuck in those stupid restraint gauntlet things, and she still runs around and beats the tar out of 20 other trained villains without her blasting powers. And that's dumb. Like, she gets tased and passes out, and then she takes like 4 or 5 different taser shots in this action sequence and doesn't even stop moving. It's dumb. She literally just comes in to Endgame to Deus Ex Machina the situation. Like, she comes in to destroy the ship at the end because it's shooting down and about to kill all the other Avengers. She comes in at the very beginning to Deus Ex Machina Tony and Nebula. She continues that to Deus Ex Machina the battle in the garden. She Deus Ex Machinas against Thanos to stop him. She's just like, I just got frustrated because I saw on Twitter that someone shared a tweet of somebody watching Captain Marvel and be like, oh, I see why everyone hates it, because it's a strong woman who doesn't let anybody tell her what not to do. And I'm like, no, I love strong, well-written characters. I don't like boring, cliche crutch characters like Captain Marvel. Like, she has too much power. It's the same thing as watching like Superman. Like, he's super strong, he's invincible. They're gonna have to come up with some baloney to make him even vulnerable, to like make him weak. And so she's just a poorly, like, Brie Larson's fantastic. She does a fantastic performance as Captain Marvel, but Captain Marvel as a character, as a hero, is lame, and it just adds to the cliche of superhero movies, which I hate. One of my favorite scenes, though, was there at the end when she gets she gets punched, she gets decked across the battlefield because she's fighting against Thanos, who has all 6 Infinity Stones at this point. And he pulls the Power Stone out, clutches his fist, and just punches her right in the face, sends her flying. It was hilarious. I loved it both times that I saw it. But she's just kind of lackluster. In the same way, Thanos is kind of similar because he has all this power, but he has a lot of good character behind it. It's kind of like all of his children, Cole Obsidian, Ebony Maw, Corbus Glaive, and then Midnight, whatever the heck her name is. I don't remember. They all have really big power, but they have no personality. So they're just like, oh, cool. Here's this wall that our heroes have to punch down because that's all the personality that they have. Hello, Cole the Geek. I see you there. And Toby Jello, and I already said hi to King Doge. Yeah, Captain Marvel, just don't like her as a character. Her powers need some kind of explanation or limits or something, because it's frustrating when these characters are just invincible because they're invincible. Like, at least with Banner, like, his power is dependent upon his anger. So if you can get him to calm down, as Natasha does several times in Age of Ultron, he's useless, except he's a brain, which makes him yet less useless. But her powers are just vague, and she's indestructible. That's her thing. She's Superman. She's Marvel's Superman. Kind of similar with Vision, but Vision was an interesting character. Also, I just realized Vision's not going to be back. Well, he could come back. They could re-upload his AI, but it's still not going to be remotely the same because he doesn't have the Mind Stone. So yeah, don't like Captain Marvel. I loved Thor, Cap, and Stark in this film. The acting was great. Character moments were great. Just to recap, plot, the plot was about as good as I expected from a Marvel film. My favorite Marvel films have really good, interesting plots. They deal with characters and creative resolutions more than let's punch each other a whole bunch and see who wins. So like Civil War, which is, just a big build up to a big punching scene and then more build up to another punching scene. Don't like it. It's one of my least favorites. But my favorite being Iron Man 3, which, side tangent, seeing what is his name? Ty Simpkins as Harley Keener, as the little boy from Iron Man 3. He was the taller young man at the back in the funeral scene. And it was so awesome to see him and be like, yes, that's from one of my favorite, that's my favorite MCU film. Good to see that cameo. But also that first third of the movie, as I said earlier, was full of that character development, those moments of like impact where this has happened. How do we move forward? Up until they start traveling through time, and even after that, with Black Widow's death, with with Cap's leaving, his disappearing and his aging. It was kind of quick resolution there, but like they got to settle and focus on those emotions for some time, which they've just really glossed over because they've never really gotten rid of somebody important. Quicksilver would have been great if he'd been around longer. But getting rid of these established characters led to some good emotional impact, and I don't think they wasted that, which makes Endgame such a good film as far as characters go. Some of the camera work was phenomenal. Like, Marvel films tend to be really bad, and a lot of action films nowadays tend to be really bad about cutting a lot. I'd be like, if I had multiple cameras and I was talking to this camera here, and then I had a camera over here, and then a camera here, and maybe a camera like right above me, just to be dramatic, and like randomly every like 30, like every like half a second, I'd be like, be talking to this camera, then I talk to this camera, then I talk to that camera, then to this camera, and so it would be shifting nonstop, and so it'd be really hard to get a fix, especially if I'm like gesticulating, if I'm talking with my hands, and if I'm trying to do something, like if I'm, I don't know, reading this cookbook, or that's not something difficult to do, but if I'm like shuffling a deck of cards, or I don't know, doing something that you're trying to watch, and like you're just cutting between camera angles constantly, it's hard to see what's going on. And you see this a lot in action sequences, like a lot of the fight scenes, like someone will throw a punch from this angle, and then it'll cut over here as the punch hits, and then as the guy recoils back, it'll cut to this other angle over here, and then as he flies farther back, it cuts to another shot farther back and wider, just so you can see how far he goes, and it gets really awkward and hard to follow, and it just makes it kind of nauseating to watch. But there were several moments that I was watching, like the beginning was so good about this, with Clint and his family disintegrating. Like, there's some cuts, but then like once he realizes what's happened, you're focused on him, and as he's running around, like the camera's just moving, and then he runs towards the picking table, and the camera runs with him, and it's jostling a little bit because it's a guy carrying a camera, and so but that shaky cam effect adds some emotional impact to it, where like things are unstable, and now Clint is about to have this emotional break where he becomes Ronin and starts murdering people because he's angry and needs to get that off his chest, I guess. I think he gets stuck as far as the accepting of trauma and moving on, like that he gets stuck in like anger instead of moving on to accept that his family is gone, and which I guess kind of makes sense. But I wish they'd done more with that. They just showed us him at the beginning, and then literally the next time he's mentioned, he's murdering people left and right. And then the next time he's seen, he's just murdering people left and right. Okay, would have liked a bit of a comment, like even just a passing comment to Black Widow, being like, yeah, I needed to do something. I needed to right some wrong. Like, Thanos was already gone, and I needed to do something. Just give me something. Give me some cursory, brief explanation for how he went from this family man to this ruthless murderer. There's just not a lot of connection there. But then later, I think when the heroes start to show up through all the portals at the end, there's a good panning shot where we pan left, and then we pan upwards, and then we pan left, and then we go up, and we just keep panning the camera instead of cutting to these different shots. And it's really cool. It had to have been immensely difficult to film, because at that point you just have a camera and you just move it, and people have to follow a cue and arrive at a certain spot, whereas if you cut, you can like film Falcon showing up, and then like, all right, Falcon, get out of here. Let's film Okoye and Black Panther showing up. All right, get out of here. Let's film Hope and Spider-Man showing up. All right, get out of here. Let's get the next folks. But they just panned and they followed it. And the last thing at the end, which was probably my favorite scene, was just the walk and the slow pan through the Avengers and family as they mourned the loss of Tony Stark. Like, that was such a good scene, such a good send-off for literally the most central character in the entire MCU to this point. He has just been the de facto like crutch, the center around which this entire universe has spun, and now it needs to find a new center, which is going to be interesting. But yeah, I've already talked a little bit about the Deus Ex Machina cliche, which I hate. It's in a lot of movies. Thor Ragnarok almost had it. But Deus Ex Machina is everywhere in this movie. One of the action sequences, like the beginning fight at the garden, suddenly, like, despite, just weeks prior struggling against Thanos, apparently, like, they just immediately, like, cripple him. And I know he's weakened. He's off guard. He's weakened from using the gauntlet. And they're all angry. And now they literally just want to capture him and, like, maybe kill him. But, like, couldn't you have used some of that gumption, that get up and go, 3 weeks prior and, tried to stop this? Just a thought. But that fight at the beginning, I feel, because it's so quick and like there's not even a fight. Like, nobody even gets punched in the face except Thanos. Like, he doesn't manage to punch anybody or anything. It kind of cheapens all of the fights with Thanos in Infinity War, on Titan and then on Earth against the other Avengers. Like, they so easily defeat him. And even later, there's just a lot of what seems to be inconsistency with how strong Thanos is. I mean, like, yes, in the end of Infinity War, he has the gauntlet, but then the Avengers are still able to stand up to him. Then without the gauntlet, they easily destroy him, which, at that point they should have done already. Also, they immediately go for chopping off his arm, which they could have done so many different ways back in Infinity War. Like, instead of going for the head, or the chest, he could have gone for the arm, which that was a funny callback. I need to go back to talking about Thor. I just tangenting all over the place. That's true. Yeah, it was fast. I did like that. That was good, but like it felt like it kind of cheapened everything from the first film, where they were struggling, especially mostly the chopping off of his arm. Like, you literally see them cut off Cull Obsidian's arm at the beginning in New York. Why don't they think to do that to get the gauntlet off of him? Like, the whole point of the fight on Titan was to get the gauntlet off Thanos, chop off his hand. Like, you have Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange himself. And so, like, the quickness with which they resorted to that, the chopping off the hand, zero hesitation, should have also been done way earlier, which would have stopped all of the events of the previous, like, would have stopped the snap, basically. And that just kind of, I saw that and I was like, Thor, why didn't you do that before? You had a solid swing at him with Stormbreaker, and you missed. Well, you hit, but you failed. And then just the Doctor Strange could have chopped off his hand at any moment during that action sequence. And it's just, I'm glad they're doing it now, I guess, now that it's too late. But yeah, it was funny that it was so fast. It was just like, all right, we're not messing around now. But at the same time, why were you messing around before? But then later, the same thing. You, like, once time is undone, and like the snap is undone, and everyone comes back, you know that they have to show up on the scene. Otherwise, they're all paid for these two films. They need to show up on these two films. And so it's just a matter of time at that point. You're just like, all right, when's Thanos going to summon his army? Oh, there's his army. Oh no, Cap's all by himself. When's he going to get? Oh, there's his reinforcements. And then you just have this big, lame action sequence that has almost no tension to it, because you know that the heroes are going to win, because all of the heroes have names, like the 30 or whatever, the 20 or 30 Avengers against the 4 Thanos' children who we just met, and the army of nobody, the army of not Skrulls, of Chitauri. Like, there's no doubt in your mind that the Avengers are going to win, and they're not going to suffer any major casualties at all, because they're not going to kill Falcon by one of the Chitauri. We've already established that these heroes can defeat the 4 children of Thanos, which was really fun. I really enjoyed those fights in Infinity War. I kind of wish they hadn't been defeated, but because they would have been nice to have them in Endgame. But they did get to be included in Endgame, if albeit just kind of absentmindedly. Like, Ebony Maw just shows up to talk a little bit and then try to take the gauntlet. Cull Obsidian tries to punch Iron Man at one point, I think. Other than that, like, the other 2 don't even really do anything. So it would have been nice to have more of them, especially because we'd seen them, we knew they were strong. It would have been nice to have, like, War Machine and Bucky go up against Corpus Glaive and have to beat him. It would have been cool to have some of those little minor fights to just cut back to every now and again, instead of just oh, look, here's Spider-Man in his super suit stabbing 100 of these Chitauri. Cool. This is so much fun to watch, right? I just don't like Marvel action sequences. They tend not to be interesting. They don't have any gravitas, any weight to them, because we know the hero's going to win, and we know because of plot armor, which is another cliche that I hate so much. It's very similar to Deus Ex Machina, but I hate plot armor. So we know all these main characters are going to live, whereas all the nobodies are going to die. You see this in films and movies and TV shows all the time. I said films and movies, the same thing, but you see this all the time. It's like any army that you see has the thousands of nameless guys and the 2 named generals. Well, guess who's going to die in this conflict? The thousands of nameless guys, not the 2 main generals. Even if the 2 main generals are like on the front lines fighting the strongest guys, the only guys that the opponents are going to kill are going to be the nameless guys, because we don't care about them. But we got to keep these main characters alive so that we can continue to make money off of them. It's especially troublesome in like literal wars. Like, I'm a big fan of manga and anime, and like Naruto has the 4th Great Ninja War, and in the course of that war, the Shinobi Alliance has 80,000 people, I think, 80,000 ninjas on its side, and the first day it gets cut in half to 40,000. But none of those characters have any named people, and even in the second day, they lose 1, 2, 3, about 5 named people, but then they lose, like, everybody that loses nameless because of plot armor. That's one of the reasons why I love Game of Thrones, is because for much of its runtime, from let's say season 1 to season 4-ish, it has no problem killing what we think are like main characters. Like, I'm not going to give any spoilers for that for people who haven't seen it, but they have no problem killing main characters in surprising, graphic, and just horrifying ways. And so it's really cool to see that. Whereas in Avengers, like, they put so much money in these actors and in these characters, and they put so much weight on their shoulders to continue carrying the franchise, but they can't kill them off. Like, they can only get rid of they got rid of 3 this movie because their contracts were expired, and they've been around since the beginning. It's time to pass the torch to some younger folks who can continue to carry the torch, carry the film, the franchise, the universe. So, like, going into this movie, I knew Cap and Iron Man were gone because their contracts actually expired last film. They had to extend it by another film to even get to Endgame. But I knew they were gone. I knew Spidey was coming back because we saw trailers for Far From Home before Endgame even released, and we know he has, I think, 4 other films on his contract. I think he had a total of 7 after Civil War, and so this makes 3. So he should have about 3 or 4 more films. But basically, all the 6 original Avengers, I imagine, are gone. Black Panther's brand new. He's a like plain and simply, he's a black superhero. He's not going anywhere. And his film was really good. I'm not going to get off on too much of a tangent here, but it ran into the same problems that same issue with Captain Marvel. Like I have no problem with a black superhero. Like Black Panther is really good. Like all the acting in that movie was fantastic. It was the plot that was lame and predictable and boring. The music was great. The acting was great. The scenery was great. Camera work was pretty good. It was just the plot. The plot was just boring. But getting back to Endgame, plot armor is lame. Yeah. So I feel like I've just been ragging on Endgame so far because I've covered most of my least favorite things. But let's talk about some of the things I really liked. So there were a few action sequences, and I talked about the one on the garden, which I didn't like. But I'm ambivalent about that one. It was good, but I have issues with it, as with basically everything I ever see and read. The end battle, that quote unquote war between the Avengers and the Titans. They're not Titans, but they're the Chitauri. There we go. That's a word. The Avengers versus the Chitauri. Lame. Like we've seen it before, twice actually. So we have no doubts that this is how this is going to end. But the best action sequence I would say is probably the big three against Thanos. When Cap, Tony, and Thor all go 3v1 against Thanos. And it's really cool because you get to see Thanos wield a weapon that's not the Infinity Gauntlet. And admittedly, there's the dumb moment when he's just when Tony gets supercharged by Thor and shoots the super laser and he just twirls the sword and blocks it. I'm like, this is not a video game. This is not anime. Like there are some rules of physics in this universe that should not happen unless this sword's made of some super material that we don't know about. But regardless, seeing him fight with that and go toe to toe with all three of them was really, really fun. I take that back. There was another cool action sequence. It was Cap versus Cap in 2012. But through these action sequences, we kind of got to see, you had an expectation going in. I had an expectation when these action sequences started. Last time these three kind of separately. Actually, I just realized no combination of the three of them ever fought Thanos together. But Tony fought him on Titan with Spidey and Strange and the rest, and he went toe to toe with him. Cap didn't really fight him, but held him off on Earth before Thor showed up and held him off. Thor showed up and threw his axe at his chest and almost killed him. So your expectation going into this fight is that this is Thanos 4 years prior, no Infinity Gauntlet. Yes, he has a big, cool double sword, but it's against Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, who all kind of individually went toe-to-toe with him. So this should be an easy fight, but it's not. It is not. And you can chalk that up to basically just the time jump. It's called Thanos Blade. Is it actually a thing from the comics? Or are you just making up a name for it? Because I'm okay calling it Thanos Blade. I just don't know if it's a thing from the comics. I didn't take time to research that. But I'll do that. I want to see if that's something he does in the comics, unless you know off the top of your head. But you think that these three are going to just easily dominate, but then they don't, because Thor's been drinking and playing PlayStation for the last 5 years. He's horribly out of shape. And kind of the same thing with Tony and Cap. It's been 5 years. There hasn't been any major superhero action. So you kind of caught glimpses of this when Cap fought 2012 Cap. He was kind of on the losing side the entire time because he was a little out of shape from not really doing any serious hero work in the last 5 years. And Tony had settled down and started a family. He wasn't Iron Man for the last 5 years. And so these characters are out of practice. They're out of shape, and seeing them go to toe to toe with their strongest opponent so far, it was really cool to see the almost back and forth, but it was never they were never really gaining any ground. They would briefly push him, Thanos, and then Thanos would just pushed them right back twice as hard. And it was really cool. I don't remember if there are any cool cinematic works there, because sometimes Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been really good about this. But there's sometimes you get a well choreographed action sequence where like you're just focused on one angle and the actors kind of go back and forth with their exchange, with their fake punches and their throws. It's a cosmic weapon? Interesting. I'm going to open up a tab and Google that so I can look. See if and just do some research later because I'm curious. Which is side tangent. This is why I hate going to movie theaters, because I love having Google available. Like I see something cool and I'm like, I wonder if that's something from a comic, or if is that a callback to this other movie, and then I can just pull up my phone and Google it and find out. At a theater I can't, and it kind of sucks. But yeah, the action sequence was really cool because it was fun to see them, like see their combo attacks, see them partner up against this big bad, see Thanos actually fight instead of just punch and throw planets at people. And then seeing, when I saw it on Thursday at the premiere, like the audience was just super hyped. And so when you see Cap, call the hammer back and he catches it and he does that epic pause with the shield up and the hammer in his hand, like the audience went nuts. And I was like, that's good. Like as soon as that like we kind of got hinted at it in Age of Ultron. But like this has been coming for Ultron was 2014, so it's coming for about 4 or 5 years now. So it was really cool to see that and see Cap just wield it naturally. It was really cool, and then it was ultimately useless because they just are out of shape and they're fighting their strongest villain, and they both have like. I'm gonna pause and take a drink so I don't stop. But one of the coolest things is the ideological conflict between the two groups, where Thanos is right. Like the universe is overpopulated, and something needs to be done about that. Well, the problem is not necessarily overpopulation; it's lack of resources. And so he had some people joking that he could just make more resources instead of killing off half the universe, which could be a theoretical way to make it work. But given that now the Infinity Gauntlet apparently can't even handle the power of the Infinity Stones, who knows how well that would have worked. So that's a really interesting. But then just the because when these characters fight, yes, it is a physical who's stronger, but there's another layer underneath that where it's whose convictions are stronger, whose ideas, and under that, whose ideas are actually legitimately correct. And so it adds layers to this fight in particular, whereas Cap versus Cap was kind of multi-layered, or in Avengers 1, when all the Avengers end up punching each other randomly because this is the first time they're gathering together, and they just see someone with superpowers and they're just like, oh, I gotta punch him, I guess, not yet him. But there's no second layer to that fight, where there's nothing deeper than strong person. And so it's a really cool conflict because it's not just who's physically stronger, it's whose beliefs are stronger, because they're both fighting for their beliefs. They both have a will that they want to exert over the people around them, and so they're trying for that, and that's awesome to see. But I love that action sequence. That was really good. Also, I love time travel. Anytime time travel is in a TV show or movie, I am down 100%. I love Doctor Who. I love Back to the Future. I love any super fantasy sci-fi. I'm just a huge fan of sci-fi. To be honest, I used to watch the Sci-Fi Channel all the time when I was a teen. But if there's time travel, I'm in. I don't care if it's lame. Let's see how it deals with time travel. And so this film was cool because it established pretty quickly that there are very specific rules. You cannot, in fact, change your past. It's said several times by Banner, by oh gosh, who else says it? Banner. Who else is there? Gosh, is it Cap? It might be Cap or Iron Man. I don't know. But when they're testing their time travel, they talk about like going back and just killing Thanos as a baby to undo everything. But it wouldn't work for them because it would just put an event in their history that they can't undo, and so then they would go back to the present, and their present would still be the same. What it does instead is create an alternate universe where Thanos is dead. And so now this movie establishes that, and it kind of has some plot holes as far as that goes. But they established the rules, and so now I'm just excited to see what they do with it, because time travel is a thing, and it's really cool. They should, and then theoretically, like, still have no. They should be able to still do the time travel if necessary, because they would have, ideally, they would have like the schematics and stuff that Tony used to build the machine, even though the machine was likely destroyed. I never talked about plot armor. I did a little bit, but another instance of plot armor. I should have like actually written a more thorough script instead of just a bulleted list. But this has been, I've liked this. This has been very natural. It's like I'm actually talking to somebody, but I'm just talking to that camera, even though I keep looking at my screen, which is here. But another example of plot armor is when Thanos arrived in 2023, actually, and immediately just shoots a bunch of missiles at the Avengers building. Everyone lives. The tiny raccoon, the completely human Scott Lang, the completely human and also slightly crippled James Rhodey. Tony is still human. Who else is there? Clint Barton, still human. But yeah, all these completely human characters survive this barrage of missiles and an entire building collapsing on top of them. It's plot armor. And like none of them are any worse for wear. Like there's a brief moment of tension when you think that Rocket and War Machine are going to drown, but they're not going to kill these two characters by drowning them. They're never going to kill someone who's been, even, admittedly, they've been kind of secondary characters, but they've been like way closer than like Quicksilver was. And Quicksilver just died a stupid death anyway. But they're not going to kill characters as central and secondary as them by drowning them. It's just a matter of who's going to save them and when and how. And the win is going to be when it's most convenient for the plot, which is another thing that happens all the time. Things just conveniently fall into place like this. Like conveniently, as soon as Thanos summons his army, conveniently, all the Avengers show up. Conveniently, as soon as they undo the snap, conveniently, Thanos arrives in 2023. Conveniently, they only have enough PEM particles for every individual who is present to travel back in time and then back to the present. Plus, and as soon as they said they had 2 practice runs, like as they were saying, as Scott was saying, we only have enough PEM particles for everyone's round trip and for 2 practice runs. As soon as he said 2, I thought he's going to destroy one, and they're only going to have. And then as I was thinking that, he shrunk and unshrunk, and he's like, "Well, we only have 1 test run now." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! 2 test runs would have not been a problem." But it just goes back to the same issue I had with Infinity War, where there's only one blank, only one path to victory out of 14,605,000, only one trip to the past and return, only one trial run, only one chance to do this, only one to do that, only one. If you mess up, you're stuck. If you fail, you're stuck. Unless they Deus Ex Machina another chance out, like they do with the PEM particles and the Tesseract. Just stop giving me only one. Because I know, because of how the movies are going to be written, that whatever happens is going to be that one that works. As soon as you said 14,605,000 and there's only one way to win, well, I know that one way is the way that's going to happen. and it just takes me out of it. Like now I feel like there's no agency, there's no vested interest. Like it's just cool. What I wouldn't have minded like 3 options. Like there are three possible futures where we win, and they're all vaguely different. And so Doctor Strange shows up and he's like, oh, so this is the future. Okay, from here we have only one way to victory. That's from a short term, that's a little bit better. But from the get go, 14,605 options, only one wins. Come on, you have better chances of winning the Powerball, the lottery. It's dumb. I already talked about the cinematography was fantastic. There are a bunch of plot holes though in this film, which is unfortunate. Like time travel created some plot holes. Actually, almost all of these plot holes are related to the time travel. First of all, Cap travels back in time to return the stones, which is a whole plot hole issue in and of itself. Like, how's he going to give them all back at the exact moment they're taken? How is he going to give them back in the exact form they were taken? Is he going to insert? Is he going to liquefy? How's he going to liquefy the reality stone and insert it back into Jane Foster? How's he going to put the power stone back in the, or not the space stone and put it back in the Tesseract? The power stone back in the ball? Like, how's he going to do that? The movie doesn't care. The movie's just going to yada yada past all that. And oh, look, he's living happily ever after, or he has lived happily ever after, which is still sweet. Like, he deserved that. He deserved that. That was a long time coming. Heard some complaints about him just sitting by while other events transpired, but he knows they get resolved. Like, assuming his path from 1940 whatever to 2023 is the same, is roughly the same aside from him settling down. Like, the event, he knows that Red Skull is going to get stopped by his other self. When he wakes up from the ice, he knows that the Chari invasion is stopped. He knows this. He knows that. He knows it all works out. And who's to say like he didn't like raise up a team of Avengers earlier? Like we don't learn about that. We learn about his personal life. Like maybe he contacted Nick Fury and was like, hey, start this initiative because these things are going to be happening. We don't know. We literally don't know what he did or didn't do. All we know is that he settled down with Peggy. But then he managed to arrive back in 2023, unless like without the time bracelet, the GPS. But because he went back in time and stayed there, like he created an alternate universe. Which, side tangent, there are at least 3 alternate universes created within the course of this movie, at least. But anyway. He creates an alternate timeline where he gets to live with Peggy, whereas the original timeline that leads through Endgame continues. But then he needs, in order to get to our 2023, he would need to time travel or otherwise travel through reality, through space and time. He would need to travel through space and time through another to alternate universe. And if he came back. My understanding was that he would return where he left. It seems that you can go anywhere, but you can't return to a different spot. So unless he scratch my finger really quickly with my canine. So unless he recalibrated his GPS somehow and then traveled to 2023 from I guess his 2023 or his 2018 or whatever, that's just unexplained, and it's a bit of a plot hole that he just shows up without a GPS just to pass on the shield. Although that's still a really cool scene. I was thinking that Bucky would get it, but it's also really good to see that that Sam has it. I'm going to be really interested to see how they utilize that. Because he doesn't have the super serum. He's just a normal dude. with a shield. So I think that's going to make a really interesting, like, new group of Avengers, because now Captain America is more the moral compass and intellectual figurehead, and less of a literal physical symbol to help them fight. Unless he gets some more special training and some better. Although him killing one of the giant beasts with his wings was super freaking cool. I love Rhodey. That's not Rhodey. That's Wilson. I also love Rhodey. Rhodey was so great. Rhodey was roasting everybody left and right, especially Thor. But it was so much fun. I loved Rhodey in this film. We need more Rhodey. But then, as far as more plot holes, it's established very early that taking the Infinity Stones out creates a world of darkness. Because the Time Stone, at least the Time Stone, but possibly the other stones collectively, are kind of repelling this dark, amorphous force. And so to get rid of them just descends the world into darkness. Well, in 2023, the Infinity Stones have been gone for 5 years. Thanos destroyed them, and they don't exist anymore. So 2020, the main timeline should be getting very crazy. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that in Far From Home, which I've heard is technically the end of Phase 3 before Phase 4 starts. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with this World of Darkness plot hole, because the Infinity Stones are gone. They're just gone, unless they kind of reform from more residual cosmic energy or something, which I would not put it past the universe or the comics to do. They do this stuff all the time. The time skip makes for a really interesting, it's not so much a plot hole, but it's just an interesting development that now the MCU is set in the year 2023, because the Infinity War takes place in 2018, and then Endgame starts right as it ends, 3 weeks later, which would be let's say mid-May, mid to late May of 2018, and then you jump ahead 5 years to 2023, where Tony has his kid, the world's falling apart, and everything sucks. But then they travel back into time, get the stones, come back, and they don't undo the time. So now Spider-Man Far From Home is set in 2023, and so is the rest of the MCU from here on out. How are they going to deal with that? Also, how are they going to deal with this sudden population boom? You can't just double the population of every living creature in the universe without some serious structural problems. Like, there's only so much space, there's only so much food, there's all the people who die in Endgame. All the people who die, Thanos dies. Gosh, I'm trying to think back through Thanos dies, Iron Man dies, Captain America gets old, and we'll just say he dies. Black Widow dies. Thanos dies again. All of Thanos' army dies. 2014 Nebula dies because of time travel. I think that's it. That's all that comes to mind. So yeah, big oof there. Yeah, major spoilers. If we're not aware. I had a thought as I was naming those people off, but now I don't remember what it was. Thanks, Potato. Population boom, people dying. I don't remember. I just don't remember. But yeah, Endgame was really good. I liked it. 8 out of 10. Oh, here we go. Here's one thing I haven't talked about. One of the I know who you are. You're the only person who, first of all, calls me Barry. Second of all, is obsessed with potatoes. But anyway, one of the main things I look for in movies, because of my personal beliefs, is get out of here. One of the things I look for is good spiritual truth, things that show like a lot of self-sacrifice and just good morals that are at least kind of vaguely Christian or overtly Christian. And so you can see that a lot in movies because there's a lot of value put into like noble self-sacrifice, like Doctor Strange giving up himself in the Time Stone to save Tony Stark in Avengers in Infinity War. That's a huge sacrifice. That is like it's a Jesus moment. He's a Jesus character because he sacrifices himself for another greater good. Favorite character and why? Let me finish this tangent and then I'll come back to that. And so when they're on Vormir, when Black Widow and Hawkeye are on Vormir, Hawkeye says, "I deserve to die because I've done all these bad things. You don't even know." And then Black Widow says, "I don't judge people by their worst mistakes." And I heard that and I was like, yes, write that down. That's Jesus right there. I don't judge people by their worst mistakes. And then there's so much self-sacrifice. She sacrifices herself to get the Soul Stone so that they can beat Thanos. Hulk is ready to sacrifice himself to bring back the half of the universe. And then Tony sacrifices himself to defeat Thanos and save the universe. So there's so much self-sacrifice, so many Jesus moments in that I really enjoyed it. Favorite character and why? The easy answer, let's see. Let me run through them. In Endgame specifically, I appreciated, I would say James Rhodey, War Machine, because he was just hilarious. He was constantly roasting people. Like Thor has gotten big and fat because he's depressed, which I need to come back to because that's a really great character development. But he gets all cocky later and is like, "What do you think runs through these veins?" Talking about like his god powers and his lightning. And then Rhodey's on the sidelines like, "Cheese whiz," because he's fat and he's just out of shape, and it's hilarious. But Rhodey was probably my favorite in Endgame. But Thor's character development was really cool. I've heard some people from the grapes. I'll get to that in a second. But Thor is really interesting in this movie because he has lost everything and just had an existential crisis. Like in the span of, I don't know, a month, he lost his dad, he lost his hammer, he lost his entire home, half of his entire people. He lost to Thanos once. He managed to get a new sword, but he lost to his axe. But he lost to Thanos again, and then because of that, he lost half the universe. It is Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 is my favorite because it's good character moments that I look at for. The action is but it really builds on the like kind of like the first part of Infinity War or Endgame focuses on how the characters react to the snap and how they process that and try to cope. Iron Man 3 is Tony kept coping with all of everything, all of Iron Man 1 through Avengers 1. Tony is finally getting to cope with that, and you see like the PTSD that kind of becomes kind of central to his character throughout the rest of the series. That's why he makes Ultron. That's why he signs the Sokovia Accords, because he's making a quick knee-jerk reaction to his overstepping before. Does Thanos drive a purple car? No, he drives a black spaceship. Unless he has the space stone, then he walks through what even color? I don't remember what the color of the portals are. How'd they get the Infinity Gauntlet? So they didn't. They made a new one. Tony makes one because they go back in time, take the time, gather the 6 stones, and bring them back to the present. Tony makes a gauntlet with his technology, and they use it once, almost twice, and then he manages to steal the stones, puts them in his own Iron Man suit, and kind of makes a de facto 3rd gauntlet. But at that point, the stones in the original timeline were destroyed. So they didn't take the gauntlet from him. They did chop off his hand, though. The second scene in the movie is them going to fight Thanos to fight Thanos to get the gauntlet back to undo everything, and in like half a second they pin him down and chop off his hand, and it's crazy. It's really fun to watch. I want to find the YouTube video that's just that on repeat for like 10 hours. It'd be very satisfying. Yes, I am a nerd. I mean, you can see my nerd things behind me, like my One Piece ship and my Fallout Pip-Boy and my Harry Potter wand, my Jurassic Park dinosaur, my Jump Force poster, my anime mug. There's so much nerd stuff. First, probably Iron Man. I don't really remember the first one, but I think Iron Man was probably one of the first ones I saw. I think so. I think part of that is the favorite movie in general is Jurassic Park. You of all people should know this. So I think what happens with the gauntlet is the gauntlet that they make on whatever the name of that planet is. I don't remember what it is. But when the gauntlet they made from the star is stronger and is able to, I guess, withhold and withstand the radiation better because it doesn't destroy Thanos until he tries to destroy the stones. Whereas the gauntlets they make on Earth, like you can even see a clear difference when they're getting ready to use the gauntlet. Anytime Thanos goes to do anything with his gauntlet, there's no like charging of energy up through his arm and into his body until he, there's maybe a little bit at the end of Infinity War when he snaps. You can kind of see in his last shot at the garden that his neck and his shoulder look a little burnt, and his gauntlet looks a little busted in the like half glance you get at it. I'm not an hour late. I've been here for an hour. But then on Earth, like as soon as they put on the gauntlet, it starts surging all this energy up into their body and killing them. Were you? I'm sorry. I started streaming. This is my first time streaming on YouTube, so I apologize. I was trying to see if there was a way to turn that, like that stream announcement from yesterday into a stream, but I couldn't find a way to do that. So I just started one. But I'll look into that because I deliberately put the announcement up so people could see it and be like, oh, he's doing this tomorrow. But then I couldn't find a way to figure out how to turn that into a stream. So I'll Google that. Yeah, and then I did take that video down because it was useless once I started the stream. But I'll look into that, and so I can be more on time. Of course you did. But I think that's what happens is the gauntlet from the dwarves and the star is able to hold that radiation and basically sustain more snaps better, whereas the gauntlets on Earth are less able to do so. Who did I hate the most? Favorite candy? Get out of here. We're talking Endgame. I hated Captain Marvel the most. Because I talked about this a little bit earlier, even though you weren't here. But she's just a so like Thanos' children are like metaphorically just like a wall, because they have no personality and they're just like strong guys to get beat. They're just a wall to take down. Captain Marvel is the opposite problem. She's a wrecking ball. She's just a really strong force with she has a little bit of personality. I really like Brie Larson. That's just a personal thought, but just the character of Captain Marvel, because she's so super powered, is lame. It's just Superman. She's so strong. What could possibly stop her? Oh, some other vague super strong force. Her power. She literally just shows up to save the day. Every time she shows up, it's just to save the day, to save Tony, to stop Thanos, to destroy the ship that's raining fire down on the entire Avengers force. Like, she's never around for any pivotal character moments. She just shows up and is strong. That's basically her personality. And specifically in Endgame, her character is just, I'm strong. It's a little bit better in her movie last month, but not much better. So she's just not an interesting character because her trait is I'm strong. And it's not fun. It's boring. Did I miss anything? Plot armor. Thank you. That's the wrong form of your. Can't remember if it good. Plot holes, time skip, population. Yeah, I really liked it though. As much as I felt like I spent the first like half of this stream and then like every other 5 minutes ragging on how the movie is lame or bad, but it was really good. I'm just a very critical person, and so I see things and I don't immediately. Very rarely do I think, "Oh, these are really good." So I'll answer that in a second. But yeah, so I think very much about things that I watch and read. So. Do I think Captain America would stay in the past? I think he would. It has come up a bunch in his storyline that he wishes he could go back and fulfill that promise to Peggy and settle down with her, because that's what the implication was that was going to happen. And so at this point in 2023, at the end of Endgame, like he has served. And once he returns, especially once he returns the Infinity Stones to the original times, he has served his purpose. He feels he has saved the universe from the biggest threat that it's ever faced, and so now he's kind of earned a vacation. And so, based on the rules of time travel that are established, him settling down with Peggy starts a brand new timeline. And some people argue that like it's out of character for him to do that, because yes, I'm going to make another book at some point. Hopefully I'm going to work on some this summer. But back to Captain America. Some people argue that it's out of character for him to settle down and not like help stop Hydra or help stop the events of Avengers or all these other things that he knows are going to happen. But it's never established that he ignored them. Literally all that we know about him is that he went back and he settled down with Peggy like he planned to. And so like it's completely feasible that he talked to Nick Fury and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm from the future," because Nick Fury's been dealing with a bunch of alien nonsense for years. And so he could be like, "Here are these problems that are about to happen in this timeline. You should, create this initiative to gather this team and combat them." He did. He did owe Peggy a dance. And so I feel like that or death were the only two ways his story could have ended. And so after all that he's gone through, all because especially since he woke up from the ice, like he's just had a really rough time. Like the government and everything that he trusted in has just been continually shaken and pulled out from underneath him and just wronged him. I think it makes a lot of sense why that would happen, why he would do that. Because his timeline has been saved and he can trust it to other folks. But this new timeline, there's no saying, there's nowhere that stated that, yeah, all he did was stay at home and dance with Peggy for the last 70 years. He could have easily intervened. Yes. I also, one thing that I don't like about many modern, especially with especially with like the end credit scenes, a lot of modern movies and TV shows don't let stuff just kind of end. Like him dancing with Peggy and then the credits was the definitive end to his story and the story so far. Whereas every other, and even the lack of post-credit or the lack of a credit scene showed us this is the end of a story. And so I really liked that. It was very final. When the credits started rolling, you knew the story was done. So whatever comes next is like a brand new book, because the story has been finished and now it's time to close it. I can kind of spell and not make crappy poems. That's funny. But yeah, I really liked Endgame. Solid 8 out of 10. Third favorite Avengers MCU film, so it's good. I liked it. No, there was not. There was no cliffhanger. They beat Thanos. They had a funeral for Tony. Cap fixed the time stone, put the Infinity Stones back. He aged and passed on the gauntlet or the shield to somebody else. And then there was no mid-credit scene, no post-credit scene. It was just, this is the end. Close the book, send it to the publishers, which was really cool. After 11 years of every movie in existence having a mid and post-credit scene, it was good to have one that didn't. Oh, absolutely. Let's focus that later. So I know they're like, I'm assuming you mean another like collaborative group Avengers, not another MCU film. But I absolutely think they will. They've made $1.7 billion off of Endgame in the last week. There's no way they're not going to make more. And Spidey still has movies on his contract. Black Panther still has movies on his contract. I think even Thor, basically anyone who's still alive, I think has at least one movie on their contract. Favorite movie villains. And also going back to other Avengers movies, there are plenty of other comic series that involve all the MCU getting together, all of the Marvel heroes getting together to fight this big villain over a period of time. There's already been some speculation about who that's going to be. And also, now that Disney owns Marvel and Fox, they have access to X-Men and the Fantastic Four, which will make the next saga just crazy once they integrate that. Those two series. They technically also have Deadpool, but Deadpool is probably never going to be in an MCU film, unless he's the one. Because as far as for film ratings, I'll get to these other two questions in a second. But as far as film ratings go, like in PG-13 movies, which all the MCU films have been, all the MCU films have been PG-13, and you're only allowed like one even implied curse word, and so that would have to be given to Deadpool if he ever shows up, unless he just is passing by in the background shooting somebody. Coke or Pepsi? It depends. Are you talking like regular Coke versus regular Pepsi, or Coke products versus Pepsi products? Because if it's regular Coke versus regular Pepsi, Coke. If you're talking Pepsi products versus Coke products, Pepsi products, because I drink Mountain Dew. Favorite Marvel villain or villains? So then, yeah, regular Coke versus regular Pepsi. I'll take Coke any day. It is a little sweet. It's way sweeter and more carbonated, but I still really like Coke. Favorite, Thanos is a really good villain. He's really well written. He has good motivation, and he's kind of the star of Infinity War, which is really cool. Ultron's kind of interesting. I know Zemo is probably my least favorite, just because I hated having Zemo in Civil War. That's part of what ruined it for me. Favorite game, like video game or board game or like phone game, because I can probably answer all those anyway. I'm just curious. But what was I going to say? Video game. Okay, I'll answer that. Until I can think of the others, Thanos is my favorite. Most of the other villains are kind of lackluster. If you count Loki, I would say Loki. I'd call him more. I don't know if I call him an anti-hero. I'd label him as a villain. He's very self-centered, very self-serving, which makes it really fun to watch him flip and flop between good and evil, and also die and come back like 7 times. He's died in every movie he's been in, which is fun to watch. I don't play board games. I guess card game, but into me. Okay, that's dramatic. I don't play phone games, so that's an easy answer. I don't play phone games. I briefly played Pokemon Go, and I guess that sure, Pokemon Go would be my favorite phone game. Board games, I love. I guess I don't know. That's edgy. I like Monopoly, as lame as that is, because I like thinking and stuff. Card games, I like what is we play a game called Egyptian, and it's really fun. It's like a group war, like a group version of war, kind of, and it's really fun. Video games, for the time being, I would probably call my favorite Skyrim. That's the one I put the most time into. Well, I put the most time in my life into Pokemon in some capacity. I've probably put a couple thousand hours into Pokemon overall, but that's just more of a casual pastime that it's something I can easily do while watching something on Netflix, which is awesome. But I really like Skyrim. I've probably put 400 or 500 hours into Skyrim, and I've restarted like 4 or 5 times just to try a new character build, and then I figure out I like figuring out little tricks in I on my current run I did a bunch of grinding to get enchanting up to 100 so I can get double enchantments. So now I can cast any kind of magic without any cost. Like even the highest level destruction spells, I can shoot lightning infinitely, which kills dragons in like 3 seconds. It's so much fun. Either Melody or Veronica. Oh, my PC specs. All right, I guess I can pull those up. I almost hit the power button. That would have been bad. Let's minimize this and put it over here. About. So, to potato, my PC specs. AMD 6-core processor, 3.5 gigahertz, 16 gigabytes RAM, 64-bit processing, or 64-bit OS. I know my video card is like a GTX GeForce 1060, I believe. I don't remember what the motherboard is. I need to look at that. But all that requires is taking off the sideboard of my tower, which I don't feel like doing right now. But yeah, that's Endgame. I should probably get this done sometime. My GT 780, nice. I still need to replace that battery thing so that I don't have to, so I can. Oh, 730. I still need to replace that battery thing on my motherboard so that it can save the BIOS, so I don't have to boot it properly every time I try to turn on my computer. Maybe this summer I'll fix that. The CM. Okay. Yes. That thing. I need to fix that thing. CMOS battery. Cool. I'll look into that, and it'll be fun. Ooh, Marvel database. Random questions from the audience. That's how we get anywhere. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Whoa. I don't need that kind of. Do I need to? Can I? Haha! I can delete your message. Ooh, I could I could put user in timeout. I don't know what that means, but that's hilarious. I kind of want to do that just to try it at some point. What? All right, I will stop. I need to get off here and clean my apartment because it's a mess, and also finish grading things because I am a teacher and I have responsibilities. Well, stop saying not nice things. I wouldn't have to put you in timeout and delete your messages. So, what a nerd. Thanks. Well, I'm going to get off here. I've been timeout now. I'm going to get off here. It's been an hour and 20 that I've been on. So it's been fun. I enjoyed this. Hopefully I can do more of this in the future at some point. Yes, I have to. I have things to do. I have responsibilities. I have adulting to do. So thanks for coming by. All 3 or 4 of you that stopped by and chatted. Toby Jello, Small Bean, Potato, Cole stopped by, King Doge. They stopped by briefly. I'm out of here. So thanks for coming. I'll see you guys later. Leave. I wish I could zoom. It'd be really cool if I could like zoom in on this camera to just like me deadpanning. It'd be a perfect way to end. I mean, the only way I can zoom is by literally picking up the webcam and moving it into my face. Maybe next time. Maybe that's how I'll end next time. But now I got to leave. So ending stream in 3, 2, 1, bye.